Okay, good morning and welcome to Daf Yomi here, just Daf It. We are starting a new parak today, the ninth parak of Yevamos. Daf Pei Dalet Amid Aleph, Pei Dalet Amid Beis. It's called Yesh Mutaros. It's basically a review of some of the halachas we learned in the Masechta already. So if you wanted to get maybe a broader scope of what's going on in the Masechta, maybe you learn this parak first. Interestingly enough, it's not the first parak. This would probably be helpful if it was the first parak. For some reason, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi put it as ninth parak. Let's get started. We don't have much time today. I take my son to the doctor and go shopping and get to the base medrash and to deal with some other calls. I didn't get to the base medrash till around 11:30. I didn't get started to learn. Now it's 12:30, so I've prepared an hour on Daf Yomi Shir and Enoch Ben Sion. We're going to talk more about Esei Dochalos Esei, everyone's favorite topic, and Yevamos comes up again on this Daf. Let's get started. The new parak. I don't think we said Hadron, so let's say Hadron Lacha Aral. We'll say it. We finished the 8th parak, and let's go on to the 9th parak. Yesh Mutaros Baalei Masrus Yevmein. There are some marriages that the marriage, the person married, the two people married, their mutter, the woman's mutter to the husband, but she's asura to the yavam. If the husband were to die, she's also to the yavam. Mutaros Yevmein Masrus Yevmein the Baalein. You can have the opposite, where she's mutter to the yavam, but she's also to be married to the husband. Mutaros Elu cases where she's mutter to both of them, both the husband and the yavam. Masuros Elu. In some cases, she's also to both of them. Elu Mutaros the Baalein Masrus Yevmein. What's the broad general rule? Cases are she's mutter to the husband, also to the yavam. Kohen Hedyot Shenasa Es Almana. A regular Kohen's allowed to marry an Almana. He can't marry a Grusha. Chalutza V'yesh Lo Ach Kohen Gadol. Probably he has a brother who's a Kohen Gadol who's going to be the yavam. So he dies. She falls to the Kohen Gadol. She's ushered to the Kohen Gadol, and Almana is also the Kohen Gadol. Chalal Shenasa Ksheira. A Kohen who's a Chalal. Right? He's a product of a forbidden union of Kohanim. Almana married a Kohen Gadol. They had a child. Or a Kohen married a Grusha and they had a child. The child be a Chalal. The Chalal marries a Ksheira. She marries a Ksheira. I mean, even if she's a daughter of a Kohen, she's a Kohenes, or not exactly a Bas Kohen. He's allowed to marry her. There's no Isser for the Ksheros. We're going to learn this is an important concept that a Bas Kohen is allowed to marry a Chalal. A Kohen is not allowed to marry a Chalala, but the opposite would not be true. V'yishlo ach kosher, and he has a brother who's a kosher, who's a Kohen, who's not a Chalal, right? They had a different mother, a different mother. Mother was not a Grusha, let's say. Yisrael, so that would be a case where she's mutter to get married, but she's also she's going to, because the Chal marries a Ksher, when he's boel her, he makes her a Chalal. He's allowed to get married. Interesting, allowed to get married, but once he marries her and has bia with her, he makes her a Chalala. So she's muteris to him, they're married to him. Once he marries her and has bia with her, so therefore she becomes a Chalala, and she's asura to the Yavam, who's a Kohen, a regular Kohen. Yisrael Shanasa, another case, Shanasa Bas Yisrael, a regular case, two Jewish people get married, but he has a brother who's a mamzer. They share a father, but they don't share a mother. The mother was forbidden to him, Isra Karis. Mamzer Shanasa Mamzeres, or a mamzer that married a mamzeres. They're allowed to get married to each other. Yisrael, the mamzer happens to have a brother who's Yisrael, the father was legitimately allowed to marry that woman. Mutaras lebalei and asros leimei, and those are all the previous cases. They're mutter to the husband, asur the yavam. Elu mutaras leimei and asros lebalei. What's the opposite? They're mutter to the yavam, asur to the baal. In the first place, not really getting married. Kohen Gadol shekidish almana. Kohen Gadol kiddush. Dafka says he's mekadesh. We'll see why in the Gemara he engaged to the almana. He can't do that. He can't even get engaged to her. Now, technically, it works. We don't pass on Rabbi Akiva. We pass in that kedushin is tofsin b'chayv elavin, so it technically does work. Not supposed to. She's just to marry him. Kohen Gadol is not married almana. Ve'ishlo ach Kohen Hedyot. But if she were to die, the Kohen Gadol, she would fall to his brother, who's a Kohen Hedyot, and a Kohen Hedyot is allowed to marry an almana. Kosher shenasa chalala. A kosher Kohen who married a Chalala, he's not allowed to get married to her. As you mentioned, the Kohen is not allowed to marry a Chalala. V'yishlo ach Chalal Yisra, and he has a brother who's already a Chalal. So there's no Isra of a Chalal marrying a Chalala. She's much of the Yavam. She's much of the Yavam. Yisrael shenasa mamzeres. So Yisrael married a mamzeres. She's not allowed to marry mamzeres. V'yishlo ach mamzer. Our brother was a mamzer. So the mamzer can marry the mamzeres. The Yavam mamzer shenasa bas Yisrael, or the opposite case where he's a mamzer and he married a Jewish woman. Again, that's also V'yishlo ach Yisrael, but he had a brother who's Yisrael, so she could marry the bas Yisrael. He could marry the bas Yisrael. And Yibum mutaros the Yivmeim asuros the Balim. The previous cases were mutar to the Yavam, asuros to the husband. Elu asuros elu. Certain cases are usher to both the husband and to the Yavam. For example, he didn't just kiddush her, he's married the Almana. Now once he marries the Almana, not only is it usher to him, he can't marry an Almana, but also he makes her a Halala. He did an Isser Bias Kahuna, an Isser Bia for the Kohan. He made the woman into a Halala. He has a brother who's a Kohen Gadol. For sure, she's Asura to the Yavam as a Kohen Gadol. It's possible to have two Kohanim Gedolim if one has a psul. Once he has a psul, he has a seminal discharge, which make him a zav or something like that. Too might be possible to the Kohen Gadol. So someone else could take over. Let's say his brother could take over and be Kohen Gadol. And then when he's cleared from his tumah, he goes back to his position. The other one stays a Kohen Gadol. So you can have two brothers being Kohen Gadols. And even the Chiddush is even his brother who's a Kohen Hedyod, still because a Kohen Hedyod can't marry a Halala. A kasher shenasa Halala. A kasher Kohen that married a Halala, he can't marry her. V'yeshal kasher, he can't marry her. And he has a brother who's a kasher, also a kasher Kohen. They both can't marry a Halala. Yisrael shenasa mamzeres. Yisrael marries mamzeres. He can't do that. V'yeshal Yisrael, he has a brother who's Yisrael. He also, the Yavam, can't marry the mamzeres. Mamzer shenasa Yisrael. Mamzer married a Basrael. Again, that's also V'yeshal mamzer. He has a brother who's a mamzer. She can't marry the Basrael also. Asruos Eila, both of them. All these women are usher both to the husband and to the Yavam. And other women are mutter to both their husbands and the Yavam. Shnios, they over him. Let's say there are an arayas we talked about in the beginning of the Masechta, Daf Chav Beis, shnios, which are not forbidden from the Torah, they're forbidden in the Rabbanon. Shniel l'baal v'lo shniel liyavam. If it's an Isser erva shnia to the husband and not to the Yavam, asur l'baal m'teres liyavam. Either a Rabbanan, she's also to marry the Baal. But if she does marry the Baal, it's a good marriage. Mutaras liyavam, and if the Baal dies, the Yavam is allowed to marry her. Shniel liyavam lo shniel Baal, the opposite, where she's asr medivrei sofrim, medivrei Rabbanan, she's an erva Rabbanan to the Yavam, v'lo shniel Baal. Asur liyavam mutaras Baal, she's much to the husband. She's asur to the Yavam, shniel zel zeh, asur zel zeh. If she's shniel to both of them, she's asur to both of them. Ein lak suva. Let's say they do get married, right? A shnia gets married to someone she's asura to. So what's the halacha in their marriage? Ein la ksuva, she doesn't get a ksuva. Ksuva is the manar masayim. Right, when you sign a ksuva, you obligate yourself to give 200 zuz, 200, whatever the equivalent to that nowadays. I would say it's 200 shekel, whatever the common currency is in your country. That's what I would say. Others don't say that. They say it's based on some silver coins. We'll have to get into them. Ksubos. What's the exact value of a ksuba? The Maisa ksuba ends up being around, I don't know, around $3,000, $4,000. So that would be a little more than 200 shkalim in Eretz Yisrael, $200 in America. It's a lot of money. So ein la ksuba. She doesn't get a ksuba. Included in the ksuba also, she doesn't get nichsis on bars. That we talked about property that she owns. She brings it to the marriage. The husband, that sometimes she could offer the husband just eat payroll. She'll keep the land, and he'll eat the payroll. He'll eat the produce from the land, but it's basically in her rishus. And then there's something called nichseson barzel, where let's say she has some clothes or something, or a valuable antique or something like that. So he'll take it into his rishus to Baal, and therefore, if it appreciates in value, the Baal gets the revach, he gets the profit. If it goes down, he suffers the loss. He has to return to her whatever he normally was worth when she brought it into the marriage. He owes that money to her. If they get married to Isser, he doesn't have to return that money to her. We'll have to see why. Below payros, there's no payros, meaning, like we said, one of the deals is in Ksubos that he gets the payros, her nichse meluk, right? That she retains the ownership of the property, and he gets to eat the produce of the land, or the wool of the sheep, whatever it is, whatever comes, the profits he gets to eat. If it goes up or down in value, it's her gain or her loss. The Chazal or Masakin, that because he gets to eat the payros, he has to redeem her. If she gets captured by someone, he has to pay the ransom. So if she get married by Isser, there's no There's no deal over here. He doesn't have to pay the ransom. V'lo mazonos, he doesn't have to feed her. V'lo blos. Blos are referring to again nichses on barzel. Let's say she puts some clothes in, a blanket or something like that, and the nichses on barzel gets worn out. She gets the value of it when she brought it in. It was worth $100, let's say. Now it's worth $50. She gets the $100 plus she gets the actual blanket itself that's worn out. She wouldn't get in this marriage. Avad kosher. Again, Avad is kosher. It's not a mamzer. It's only divrei sofer. Makoven is lahotzi. Even if you're married divrei sofer, Chazal said get out of this marriage. Almanah can go to grush v'chutz going head yod. Mamzer is going to stay bad shalom in the mamzer. All these isurei lavim yesh lahen ksuva. As opposed to the Isra of marriage, the Rabbanan, they took away the ksuba. In these cases, there is a ksuba. He would have to pay her when they get divorced. He would have to pay her the Manor Masayim and maybe the next thing is Son Barzel. We'll have to explore why in Isra Del Raisa is less severe and she gets to keep the ksuba. The Gemara says, I'll be coming up later in the parak. The Gemara says, "My ear the Tani Nasa, listening Kiddush." In the first case, he's in our Mishnah. It says, "An almana kohen hedyo shenasa es almana." He married the almana. He has a brother, a kohen gadol. Why did it say nasa? Listening Kiddush. Even if he's a makadish, she becomes an almana, right? A kohen gadol is forbidden to an almana, and then he dies, right? She's still an almana. She's almana min ha'erisin. She's almana min ha'erisin. They don't makadish. She's an almana. Almana, it says in the Torah, is a lav in the Torah. Kohen gadol can't marry an almana. He did one time with the nasa, the havalei asay v'losasay. The reason he got married, it says he got married because he got married. That means they were boel each other at bia. So she's not a psula anymore. There's not only a losasay of almana. There's also an isra essay of a baula. Aval kidesh asi essay of dochalosay, and that's why it said nasa because kidesh technically he should be muteres to the kohen gadol because the essay of Yevamos we dochel losasay almana. But how kula pirkin essay losasay who will essay v'dochel losasay. A lot of the cases in this Mishnah are essay dochel losasay. Mamzer to Bas Yisrael, right? If that is a situation of Yibam or a Yisraelis to a mamzer, falling to a mamzer, both those in Israel Lav, in the Torah, we don't say, when the Mishnah says Asuras Tivma, it doesn't say Esei Dochalosa, say the Esei of Yibam should be Dochalosa. For some reason, we don't say that. Rashi says the reason is it's a statement of Yidal Marav on Daf Chafman Aleph, which seems to say that even though normally essay is zochalosa, say it has to be. It says specifically like yibum im chafetz, right? It has to be if he wants to. He technically could do yibum, meaning if it was outside the construct of yibum, he could marry her, and the mamzer can't marry Israel, Bas Yisrael, or Israelis or Israel can't marry a mamzer, mamzeres. He can't marry a mamzeres. So therefore, it's not in the construct of yibum chalitza. And the Gemara learns that there is chalitza over there, as opposed to chayve krisas, chayve lavin. There is chalitza, but there's no yibum. Chayve krisas, no chalitza or yibum. But chayve lavin, for some reason, so the Mfarshim asked that really that's not the maskana of the Gemara over there. The maskana of the Gemara is there. We say the reason essay is not dochalosa say is because La'asi goes there to gaze there the Rabbanan be a rishona to be a shnia. Can't do the bia rishona, which would be esed dochalosa. So technically should work because they're going to do a bia shnia, which would be iser. I have to explain the answer to the question. The answer to our Rishonim's question, that will be in Ben Sion. We'll explain why Rashi had to say what he said over here. So the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, "Mishum dekaboy lemisni seifa," because we want to say in the seifa, the third group in our Mishnah, Kohen Gadol shenasa es almana. It's talking about a Kohen Gadol who marries an almana. Dafka nasa. It's only if he married her. It has specific that he married her. The shavya chalala. And he made her a chalala because he was boel, or he made a chalala, and that's why she just asur to the yavam, even as Kohen hedyot. Al kidesh shayle. He's not a makadisher, so therefore when he dies, so he wasn't boel, she's not a chalala, so she's muteris to the Kohen hedyot. Tanami Reisha Nasa. So therefore, just use the word Nasa. Could use the word Kiddush because the Seifa said the word Nasa is the Reisha also. Anatani Mishum Seifa, this is the Mishum Mesiyasa. If you're writing the Reisha based on the Seifa, what about the middle group in our Mishnah? Kohen Gadol Kiddush as Almana, V'yesh Lo Ach Kohen Hedyot. It says, right? It says Kiddush, and that's Dafka. It has to say Kiddush in that case. In the middle case, Shekidesh as Halmana, because if he married her, he was boel her, and then she'd be a chalala, she'd be also the Kohen Hedyot. It says in that case, he's muteris the Kohen Hedyot. It says Kidesh, just like the mitziyasa, the middle group says Kidesh. If it's really possible, we should say Kidesh in the Reisha. Elam b'shum bas buksa, The Gemara says no, it's because on the account of what's next to it. The mitzvah. So the Gabbai the mitzvah chalal shnasak sheira. So the middle group says a chalal, right, a Kohen who has a defect in the kahuna, he's possible to the kahuna. Shnasak sheira. He married a ksheira. He married a bas Kohen who had no problems to her. Time of the nasa. It's only where he got married to her, the shavya chalala, where he's bold her, he married a chalala. And therefore she'd be asura to a Kohen, a regular Kohen, who's a kosher, in Yibum, about Kidesh, Shari'aleh. But he's only Mekadesh. It's mutter because she's not a chalal. Mishuhachi is saying nasa. That's why, because in the mitzvah it says nasa, the ratio also say nasa. My year the kani almana. Listen to psula. Why does it say in the ratio? It says he married an almana. Kohen hedyo shenasa as almana. Listen to psula. If he says he's talking about he married her, so Kohen Hedyot, even if he didn't marry the Almana, he married a Psula. It means he was Baal her. Now she becomes a Ba'ula. So it could have said there, and therefore she's ushered to the Kohen Gadol. Maybe you'll get out of that and say the reason it says Dafka Almana and not Psula, because if it was a psula, then technically it should be muteris the Kohen Gadol and Yibam. Because when Nisu and Harishonim apilim, you adjudicate whether it's a kosher, the Yibam is kosher based on when they first got married, when the first marriage happened. The first time the first marriage happened, he married a psula, right? And then he was boel her, but before he was boel her, right before when they consummated their nisuin, before they consummated their nisuin, technically chuppah is nisuin. So therefore, he was technically married to the psula. And it should be muteris to the Kohen Gadol. That can't be. We have a case also in the Mishnah where a chalal married a ksheira. He married a ksheira. Technically, before the bia, right? Before the bia, she wasn't a chalal. We don't say you technically go by the yichud room. There was no bia yet, and therefore she should be valid. It should be valid to the yavam. So also she's a chalal. She's also to the yavam who's a kohen. Havada mishum seifa. So this Gemara says this mentioning where it says almana, it doesn't say psula, is for the seifa. Mishum the mitzvah seifa. Kohen gadol shenasas almana v'yishlo ach kohen gadol kohen hedyo. Dafka almana. It's dafka where he married an almana al psula chazilei. Right. If the kohen gadol would have married a psula, right, instead of marrying an almana, so then he would be fit. The woman will be fit to the Kohen, not the Kohen Gadol, but fit to the Kohen Hedyot. If he was married, he married a psula. So if he marries a psula, so he doesn't make her a halala. So she belongs to the Kohen Gadol. He has another brother to Kohen Gadol of the Yavam, but the Kohen Hedyot, she's not a halala, so she muteris to the Kohen Hedyot. That's why it says almana based on that. Shemakin almana. Maskil Rav Papa. Rav asked the following question. This is a new question. We have this case, unique case we talked about a couple dafim ago. Right? A mitzri is only the ger, and the geras of mitzri only considered a fully fledged part of Klal Yisrael after 3 generations. The third generation, the ger is the first generation, and their grandchild is muteris of Abakal. Let's say the child, the mitzri sheni, Shenatzer mitzri Rishona, married a woman who just converted, an Egyptian just converted, B'nash Sheni Havi. So Rabbi Yochanan says the son has a din of a Sheni like the father. Like the mother. You don't assume he's a child of the Sheni, which would be a Shlishi, so like the mother. Listening Nami Mitzri Sheni, Shenatzer Shtei Mitzrios. Why do you have another case in our Mishnah? Why only the cases are limited in our Mishnah? We should include another case. A Mitzri Sheni, right? He's a child of an Egyptian convert. Shenasa Shtei Mitzrios. He got 2 wives, 2 Egyptian converts. Achas Rishon of Achas Shnia. One was just converted, and one was the daughter of someone who just converted. He had children from both them. Rishon of Shnia. He had 2 children. He had one from the Mitzvah Shishon and one from the Mitzvah Shnia. Inasov Kiarchayu. If they marry, technically like they're allowed to marry, meaning the Mitzvah Shlishis marries the Israelis, and the Mitzri Sheni marries a Mitzvah Shnia, which both are allowed to do. Mutaras Balaim, Asuras Livameyan. In that case, it would fit into our Mishnah. They've been mutter to their husband; they're doing nothing wrong. Asuras Livameyan, they can't marry the opposite, meaning the one who's the product, the Mitzri Shlishi becomes a Yisrael, but the woman that would fall to Yibum would be a Mitzri Shniya, which she's not allowed to marry. He's considered part of Kal Yisrael, and she's a Mitzri Shniya. She's Asur L'Vobakal, and flip flop the other way, it would be Asur for both of them. V'ipoch, and if it's the opposite, V'nosov, they did it wrong. They married the one they're not supposed to marry, meaning the Mitzri Shlishis of Yisrael married a Mitzri Shniya, which is not allowed to marry, and the Mitzri Shniya married the woman who's Mitzri Shniya married Yisrael. Should say, and again, if you just do the calculations, it would be the mutter to the yavam, the asher to the baal, and then that would be two of the cases. Mutaros le'elu elu also fitted elu gioros asuros le'elu gioros, meaning if the Mitri married a convert, not a Mitzri Adom, meaning a regular woman who's a Gioris. Now, a regular woman who's a Gioris, say she's Christian or whatever, American, I don't know, she's a Gioris. So she's Mutera, she's a convert right away, but there's a machlokas in Yudin and Riosi. In Riosi Pas and Kal Gerim Lokri Kal. So, therefore, they're not part of the Kal. So, both the Mitzri Shlishi and the Mitzri Sheni are not allowed to marry, Mutaras Elu, they're mutter to both of them because they're allowed to marry to their husband, allowed to marry to the woman, and they're also allowed to marry to the Yavam. Gioros Asuros Elu islandess. In the case where they're both Asuros to both of them, being islandess. And islandess is a regular Jewish woman. She just she's not a full female that she can't reproduce. So there's no conscience of Yibum by now. As we learned previously, there's no mitzvah of Yibum in the island. There's no Yibum of Chalitza. That's why there's Asuros to the Yapam and Asuros to the Mitzri Shlishi and the Mitzri Sheni. Even the Baal they'd be Asur to. The first Baal, the islandess, can't marry them because an islandess is a regular Jewish woman and they can't marry into the Kal. They can't marry into the Kal. Tana of a Shire. So the Gemara says, really, you're right. We could have had the case where this Mitzri Sheni married a Mitzri Shona and had a child, and that child married two wives that were Egyptian converts. Could have had that case in the Mishnah. But Tana of a Shire, but the Mishnah didn't include all the cases. Rabbi didn't include all the cases. He taught some, and he left some out. My Shire, the high Shire. If you're going to say that, you have to prove another case that he left out. The minimum is to leave two cases out. Shire Psua Daka. It didn't talk about Psua Daka. Psua Daka also, you can come up with a construct of Mutaras Balein, Asuras Meyan, etc., etc. Even Shum Psua Daka Lav Shiuru. The Gemara says that leaving Psua Daka out is not a Shir. Dahatana Le Chayvilavin. Psua Daka was already included in Chayvilavin. For example, a Mamzer, the Israelis, Bas Yisrael, or Yisrael to Mamzeres. Hatu Chayvilavin. Milo Kasani, V'Hadar Tani. What do you mean? By Chayve Lavin, it repeated itself. So if it repeated itself by Chayve Lavin, it should repeat Psua Daka. V'Hakatani Kohen Hedyo Shanasa Almana, V'Chalal Shanasa Kshera. So the Gemara says, no, it really does repeat even cases that are similar. Talk about a Kohen Hedyo that married an Almana. And also a Chalal married a Kshera. So two cases by Kahuna. So therefore it justifies having two cases by Yisrael so therefore the Gemara says Srichale Ashmin, and there's not a double case by Kohen, right? So the second case is much different than the first case. A Kohen Hedya that marries an Almana, right? And in which case it teaches you that the Yavam, who's a Kohen Gadol, can't marry the Almana, is different than the Chal Shanasak Shera, because that is a big Chiddush. Chal Shanasak Shera, there's a Chiddush over there that we wouldn't have thought of, that the Chal is allowed to marry a Kshera, a Bas Kohen. A Chal is allowed to marry a Bas Kohen, and she's not Huzuruk Kshera Sinasel Psulin. A Bas Kohen is not Muzar. She's technically allowed, 100% allowed, to get married to a Chal. Now she does become a Chalala when she's Nevelis, but in terms of getting married the first time, so that's necessary. So both cases by the Kohen are necessary, but the fact that by Yisrael it says twice, so that is unnecessary. So that's the Gemara's problem. The Gemara says still persists. Akhtani Kol Shnasa Kshera, Yisrael Shnasa Bas Yisrael, V'yesh Lo Ach Mamzer. It says a Chol married a Kshera, and Yisrael Shnasa Bas Yisrael, V'yesh Lo Ach Mamzer. Still, it's still a repetition because, fine, so you want to say that this is a new case, right? It's a case where Chal Shenasa Kshera is a new Chiddush. But it also says Yisrael Shenasa Bas Yisrael, Yishlach Mamzer. That's really not Aser. Hanami Lam Hadar Misnahi. Somebody says that's not a repetition. Ashmin Lav Shein Shabbat Bakol. Kamashmalan Lav Shabbat Bakol. No, one is talking about a Kohanim, right? A Chal Shenasa Kshera. And one is, which is not Shabbat Bakol, which only applies to Kohanim. Halal is only a reference to only a problem by Kohanim. Only a Kohen can marry Halal. And then it says by Mamzerus, which applies to all of Klal Yisrael. Kamashmal Lava Shabbat Bakol. Akasani Yisrael Shenasa Mamzerus. V'yesh Lo Ach Yisrael. But it says Yisrael marries Mamzerus. V'yesh Lo Ach Yisrael. So it says by Mamzer twice. It says the case of Yisrael marrying Mamzeres, and also the case of a Mamzer marrying a Bas Yisrael. Why was that necessary? Allah Shmamina Tana V'Shayir Shmamina. So therefore, the fact that there's a redundancy over there shows you that it's justified to repeat things in the Mishnah, even though there's no Chiddush over there. And so you can't say that one lav, Isra lav, includes Psuadaka, because it said just repeated the lav and they were the same. So if it repeated lav and the same, it should have justified saying another lav, which is Psuadaka. But you must see the fact that the Tana left out Psuadaka, Kurashafka. So therefore, you see Tana V'Shayir. Rebbe wasn't interested in listing all the cases. So therefore, just like he was Tana V'Shayir Psuadaka, it's Tana V'Shayir by Mitzri and Mitzris. Kufa. Amar Rav Yudam Rav Lehuzru Kshei Sinas Psulin. Bas Kohen should marry a Chalal. Lema Messiah say this to prove our Mishnah. Chalal Shanas Kshera. Chalal married a Kshera. My love Kohenes Haruya Lo. Meaning this is what we thought all along, that it means the Bas Kohen, that she's fit to him. A Mike Kshera Lakuna. She's a Kshera in the fact that she's normally Kshera Lakuna, meaning she gets a Truma. She's part of a Bas Yisrael. Lo Yisraelis. When it says Kshera, it doesn't mean, who says it means a Bas Kohen? It means a Bas Yisrael. Well, Mike Kshera Lakal. Kshera just means what she's kosher. She's kosher Levavakal. She's a regular full-fledged Bas Yisrael. She's not a Gioris. Yihachi Yesh Lo Ach Kosher. The case of if this brother, this Chol has a Ach Kosher, Nami Kosher Lakal. So if Kshera means Kosher Lakal Yisrael, so the Kosher Lakal, the brother, is a Yisrael. Michal Dehu Pasal Lakal. It must be the brother is Pasal Lakal, meaning he's not only is he a Chalal, but he's also, let's say he's a mamzer. He's not royal of a bakal. El lav kohen, but it says that he's allowed to get. It's only because he's a chalal. So el lav kohen. It must be that in the ratio we talk about a kosher. It can't be talking about someone who's a Yisrael. It has to be talking about a kohen. Who kohen? He kohen. It must be talking about a kshero also in the end of the phrase. It must be talking about a kohen. It's a bas kohen. Where's the media area? It's not necessarily a definitive proof. Haki isa, haki isa. No. The beginning of the phrase kosher could be talking about a kohen, like we say. It has to be talking about a kohen. Otherwise, there would be problem with lava bakal. But the kshera was talking about a bas Yisrael. Basically, Rav Nachman lo yichu. It says lo yichu twice in the parsha of Kohanim marrying forbidden woman, grusha, zona, alola. So therefore, this Brayta teacher says lo yichu twice. Tell you the woman has an injunction against her. She's forbidden to marry on the Ish, based on the Ish. We'll see what this means in a second. I'm a Rava. So therefore what? So therefore we see from this Brisa that just like a kosher Kohen can't marry a Chalal, so therefore a Chalal can't marry a Kshera. A Bas Kohen can't marry a Chalal. Seems like whatever applies to the man applies to the woman. So, I'm a Rava. No, that's not what it means. Dehu muzar, he muzheres. Whenever he is muzhar, let's say he's a Kohen, marries a Chalala, he muzheres. The Chalal can't marry him also. They both get an Isser. Muzhar, for example, in the case of a Chalal marrying a Kshera, a Bas Kohen, he lo mizhara. She's not muzheres. Nafka. You learn it out from here. But Rav Yehuda Amarav Nafka. Rav Yehuda Amarav. You don't learn it out from this pasuk. V'chein Tana very small. Isha ki yasum kol chadas adam. It mentions men or women when they do any of the sins. If you say it means that when man and woman have relations and the relation is forbidden, both get isurim. We learn it from a different pasuk, isha isha. Both the man and woman get the isur when they have forbidden union. If in that pasuk, it's a general pasuk. I would say only things which are usher in general for all of Klal Yisrael. But by isuri kohuna, I wouldn't necessarily say that. That's why you need the second brisa lo yikhu twice to teach me that just like when it's a forbidden union between, let's say, a kohen and a halala, so then the halala gets the isur also for the union. But halal marrying a kshera, a bas kohen, there will be no problem with that for both of them. That'll be the conclusion of today's share. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for Yevamos. We'll talk more about Esei Do Chalosa and say you're not going to want to miss it.